Today we're really pleased to be joined by Kathleen Kovalak. Her husband Robert is here too, from Zoe for Life from Cleveland. We've been talking for several years about how it is that we should approach this concept of pro-life as Orthodox Christians. And so we thought it would be really a great idea to have them come. They're doing this work every day. They have a really wonderful setup there in Cleveland. And so we wanted to hear what it is that they do. And as I told Kathy and Robert, shamelessly steal all the good stuff that they're doing so that we can also put that to work here in our parish. So we'll ask that you be attentive to the presentation. Without further ado then, Robert is passing out some flyers, and I think Kathy is going to take the lead.
Thank you very much for having us here, having me speak with you today. I'm really honored. The service was beautiful. The choir was gorgeous, so it was really nice to be here today. As I said, my name's Kathleen Kovalak. This is my husband, my wonderful husband, Bob, we've been married for 42 years now. We have 3 beautiful children, and we're blessed to have 7 grandchildren. If you can't hear me, let me know, so I'll speak up. I have a tendency to talk kind of softly, so let me know. I'm a registered nurse, and I've always worked with newborn babies and expectant parents. And it's impossible to see a newborn baby, to see the development of a child without really recognizing that child as a miracle from God. Watching the baby grow and develop is really a miracle. For instance, when I teach my classes with my parents, I always tell them, do you know that your heart, when you're in utero, there's a hole between the upper chambers of your heart because the blood doesn't go through the lungs, so it just kind of goes through that hole. As soon as the baby's born, that hole closes up. To me, that's pretty miraculous that that happens. If a baby's born premature, like at 7 months, mother's milk is specifically for that child at 7 months. If he was born at 8 months, that milk has changed, so that milk is specifically for that child at 8 months. And then again at 9 months. And again, that's pretty miraculous. And how could you not think that was just by chance? That definitely is a miracle from God. These children are precious and they are a gift from God. The Orthodox Church from the very beginning spoke of the sanctity of life, that life begins at the very moment of conception. The unborn in the womb are already adorned with God's image and likeness. So in the eyes of the Orthodox Church, there is no question that abortion is wrong. We know that not only life comes from God, but that life is the most precious gift that God has given to us. It's God who closes the womb, and it's God who opens the womb. God is the only one who knows the shape of human history, and he has full control over its direction. God is actively at work within the events of human history through the conception and birth of predicted children. Think about Isaac, or think about St. John the Baptist. They knew what was going to happen even before they were born. Before Zoe, I became a member of Orthodox Christians for Life in Cleveland, before Zoe was there. And we'd go to the March for Life in Washington every year to witness to the truth of the sanctity of life from the Orthodox Church perspective. But then I would hear comments from people saying, well, I don't believe in abortion either, but what about those poor moms and dads, that are having their children? They're in crisis about their pregnancy. What are we going to do for them if they're in poverty or being alone or whatever? And now this is what Zoe for Life is trying to do. Zoe for Life, and it's kind of redundant. We wanted to be called Zoe, but that was already trademarked, so we had to be Zoe for Life. So we're kind of for life, but that's the way it went. It was started when a group of Greek Orthodox women wanted to do something to make a difference. They sent out a survey to a lot of the Orthodox women around over the age of 18, and 3 areas of concern came into being. The need for an Orthodox adoption agency, help for women in crisis pregnancies, and assistance for battered women. While talking with professionals, we thought that the adoption idea wouldn't be too hard, but the problem is there's very few babies to adopt. So many of them are being aborted. There's a company company called CareNet, which helps groups get started with crisis pregnancy centers. And when we went to them, they told us that the Orthodox Christians have a higher than normal rate of abortions than the U.S. norm, which really surprised us. They said we have two strikes against us, a concentrated ethnic group and a tightly knit religious group. Maybe not what we think two strikes against us, but in that respect it did. For reasons of pride and shame, these factors linked to higher abortion rates. Asking our parish priest, because we were surprised by this idea, they confirmed that many Orthodox women have abortions, but they only hear of it through confession. Orthodox Christians must do more than just say we're against abortions. By our silent conviction that our girls just don't do those things, sometimes we force our young people to have abortions. So, Zoe for Life came into being. Women in crisis pregnancy struggle with a lot of different things. They struggle with some with abortion, some with suicide, some with adoption. And what our mission is to help pregnant women in distress who need confidential, emotional, and spiritual support to encourage them to choose life for their unborn child. We also help assist Orthodox Christians seeking to adopt. We're not an adoption agency, but what we do is we do have a woman, an Orthodox woman, who does counseling for adoptions, and we have a lawyer that works with them. But we serve everybody in the community, but as far as adoptions are concerned, we only do Orthodox couples. So we have about 68 couples on our list that are waiting, that would like to adopt if we would have any babies. And also, we try to provide life-affirming resources and an Orthodox Christian education program for secure living. So we've had a number of youth retreats that we've given so that youth would know what the Orthodox stance is on the whole issue. God took us in an additional turn with the opening of the Zoe House. We were looking at a place that we might meet together and maybe have a place where moms could come to give counseling. And what we didn't know if we could afford to rent a facility, so we thought we'd try it. We'd give ourselves a couple years to see if we can still afford it. And here we are more than 4 years later. And what evolved was a place that moms could come to obtain baby items free of charge. And this was due to some very generous donations from Orthodox Christians. So a lot of the churches in the area maybe will have baby showers for us. Actually, we even have some people in the community that will donate baby items, and then moms come in to pick them up. The first year that we opened, I sat by the phone waiting for it to ring, sometimes playing solitaire on the computer because nobody was calling us. And now in 2012, we helped more than 250 women. And so far, the first quarter of this year, we're twice as busy as we were last year. So we're really pleased that it really has taken off. Over 15 social service agencies in the Cleveland area refer clients to us. So if a mom comes to them and they're really in desperate need of something, then they'll give them our name and then they'll give us a call. So moms and dads, and sometimes even grandparents that have custody of the children, will call and make an appointment, and they come in to obtain the baby items they need if we have them. That's always the big if. One week I had a call for 10 cribs from different people. And that's our biggest items, but the hardest thing to get. We do go out and buy. In fact, we came up yesterday so we could stop at IKEA, and we bought 4 cribs for Zoe, which is the cheapest place to get them. So when people donate money to us, then we go out and buy cribs or car seats, which are the big items that they need. We never seem to have enough of those. In the summer, all of us go to garage sales to obtain good items that we can, and again, use the money that's been donated to us. We'd like the parents to come to us. Occasionally a client or a social worker wants to come in and pick up items. But we like to talk to them so they can see our icons. Our house, Zoe House, is filled with icons all over the place so they can't not know where we're from. And also to know that we're doing this for the glory of God. That's the most important thing. We are a pan-Orthodox national organization. We're based in Cleveland, but we help everybody throughout the United States, and actually some outside the United States. We have a board of directors of about 8 women, and then we have a lot of volunteers helping us in Cleveland and also around the country. We also have a national hotline that's manned by our president, Paula Kappas, who's been trained, so people can call her at any time if they're needing assistance. And we do know that we've She's talked to hundreds of women, and we know that this has helped many babies from being aborted. There's at least 2 victims to every abortion, the baby and also the mother who felt that she had no other option. Women who have had abortions so often say, if only I had someone to stand by me. And we all are those missing someones that can help her out. So as an Orthodox Christian, what can we do? Or what can you do? I think the first, most important thing is to pray. Sometimes we forget how important that is. With God, all things are possible. We never thought that we would be in that house for all these years, being able to afford it. And every time we get our statement from the bank, and it hasn't changed. And we're all looking at each other like, how could that possibly be? We pay $800 a month rent for this house, and it's been amazing. We need to pray that God will grant to the people of this nation the will to do good, to flee from evil, and to respect all life, caring for one another in mercy and truth. We need to pray that God will banish all evil from our hearts and wickedness from our laws. Excuse me. And we need to pray for all those children killed by abortion, and also for those parents. We need to pray for those parents who have aborted their children. Again, we need to look for at them with love. Another thing you can do is let people know about Zoe, and that's why we passed out the brochures. If you know somebody that's struggling, we can't help them if they don't know that we're out there. So let them know that we are there and we're there to help. To tell you one story that I can tell you for sure, we had a lady out in the West Coast, I think in Colorado or Arizona, I forget which state. She had had 2 abortions, was pregnant again, she wasn't married. But for some reason, she went to the Orthodox church in the area and talked to that priest. That priest knew about us and gave her our brochure. So she called us, and he worked with her. She decided to keep her baby. She did not abort him. And one of our couples from our group, an Orthodox couple, actually adopted, that child. The parent was so excited. The father became a deacon in the Orthodox church he is now, and is now trying to open up some kind of Zoe chapter where he lives. We always say if we could just save one baby, we feel like we succeeded. And that's a great story for us, to see that it actually does work. So let people know that we're out there. Consider starting something like the Zoe House. And we were lucky we were able to, rent a facility, but some people you might have some place in your parish. I know right now you probably don't, but maybe once you do build your new parish, you might have just a closet or a little room that you can store things in and let the community know that you have objects available, that you can help them with. Right now what we're trying to do is putting together a brochure or a booklet that we can give to parishes that would like to start something like this to help them, and always know that Zoe's there to help them out. Also be a witness to the truth about the sanctity of life. Our president, Paula Kappas, told a story that I think she wouldn't mind me sharing. She was speaking to an Orthodox friend about abortion, and the lady said to her, she believes that abortion is wrong, but that a woman should have a right to choose to abort her baby if she wants. So Paula said to her, do you believe that God consecrated you when you were conceived? And she says, well, of course. And she said, well, do you not think that that child that might be aborted was not also sanctified by God? And is that child any less important than you are? And that really made her think. But it is hard to speak to the truth. I gave her so much credit for being able to do that. But we're all called to witness to the truth in love. We especially need to talk to our children about what our church teaches about and how they can spread the word, God's word, and also to spread His love. We talked a lot about this in the wake of the shootings like that in Connecticut. We need to protect our children not with guns, but with love for each other. And that each life, each soul is sanctified by God. And every time we have a meeting, we always say, how can we get that message out? How can we let people know that each soul is important, each soul that is conceived? Mother Teresa once said, any country that accepts abortion is not teaching people to love, but to use violence to get what they want. This is why the greatest destroyer of love and peace is abortion. It seems like a no-brainer to see how this thought goes along with the increase in violence in our youth, now that abortion is so rampant in the country. According to Dr. Dmitry Mikhaila, who wrote The Right to Life, which is really a great Orthodox book, he said the legalization of abortion desensitizes people to the killing of human life. So again, another thing to do is to work with your youth. Like I said, we're having another retreat in October to talk to them about that. So think about maybe having a retreat for your youth. Let them know. And we can also help with materials. We do have materials that we can send out to you. And again, or a speaker, if you need to do that. Children are being bombarded in this world with things that aren't, of our faith or of our teachings or our beliefs. So they need to know, what we believe. I'd like to close again with a quote from this Dr. Michaela's book. The need is more imperative than ever before for our Orthodox communities to become the prophetic voice by proclaiming to the world that human life, beginning at conception, is created by God to develop and participate in divine life. We have to become the prophetic voice of this nation by fighting the good fight, by calling a deeply divided nation to live into the unity of the Holy Trinity, the very source and goal of all life. Christ is the Lord of life, not of death, and we cannot be inheritors of eternal life as long as we are promoters of death beside eternity. That's all I have. Are there any questions?
So I have a practical question. For instance, you were talking about cribs and car seats and going out to garage sales to pick up stuff. How do you go about those requirements for expiration date and all those things and recalls and all that?
That's been a real pain. Personally, we know, being a nurse also, that so much of that is because they want to sell you more car seats.
Absolutely.
Yeah. They do that. And since we don't sell them to that, we don't give any cribs that have the slats. They have to be 2 3/8 of an inch. The fact that the sides go up and down, you can now buy at Walmart. They have a very cheap thing that you can hook onto your crib so the sides don't go up and down. So if someone gives us a crib that, is a little older, we will still give them out. And the thing is, we'll have parents come in and say, the baby's sleeping with me, the baby's sleeping on the floor, the baby's sleeping in a drawer. I would rather have them in a crib that might go up and down than that way. So that's how we feel.
How is it handled legally? Do you have any sort of insurance? Because that might be a concern as well.
We do have talked to a lawyer about that. So far we've been okay. And she said the fact that we're not selling it to them, we're just, giving it to them.
That helps.
And we just pray a lot. It just says you just hope that.
But as an organization, you don't have any sort of a disclaimer or anything like that?
No, we don't. Car seats, we won't give any car seats out that aren't in good condition. And that's why we like to go out and buy them, newborn car seats if we can. So high chairs, things like that, we might purchase at a garage sale.
Thank you.
Excuse me. First of all, thank you very much for coming to us and for and God help you in your efforts there in that area and around the world. Hopefully you have that kind of reach eventually. What is the cost of adoption these days?
Good question. I wish I had the particular answer, but I don't. I know it's over $10,000, but I'm not sure what the cost actually is. Since we're not an adoption agency, we kind of give that to the lady who then helps with the lawyer.
Okay.
So she can. We've been really blessed. This Orthodox girl joined us. Like all of a sudden she heard of Zoe and came to help us, and that's her area of expertise. She works with an agency that does
So somewhere in that ballpark.
Right, exactly. It's very expensive, unfortunately. And now it's hard to adopt from other countries, places that close that, and when Guatemala did, so our husband is there, we can't adopt from there any longer, so that's pretty sad.
Other questions? It's kind of a rare opportunity.
So you said that somebody has started or is trying to start a branch of Zoe for Life. Do you have branches out there?
Well, right now we do have is kind of representatives from the churches that know about us. So like if somebody called us from Florida, so we were able to call them from Florida to hook up with the priest from Florida to hook up with this lady that needed help. So that's kind of our goal too, if we can do that. We kind of work through that.
Are there, can you think of any links or any places online that one might go to discover statements made by the Orthodox Church on these issues. I was thinking of our Council of Bishops, the most recent. Maybe there's something there?
Oh, there is.
There
Yeah.
is?
There is. It's a very important part of the Russian Orthodox Church social concept that was from 2001, which strongly stresses that the church is pro-life, is for life.
Yeah.
So I can get you that if you want. Just send me a note.
That'd be really helpful, and I found that I've had discussions with, unfortunately, more than a few Orthodox Christians that don't believe that there is an Orthodox view on this issue. And I find myself disheartened
Right,
completely
right.
when I have those
And that's
discussions.
another.
Who you been talking to with those?
I talk to everybody.
And that's one thing Zoe's trying to do, is like get out the word not only about us, but about how we believe, and that's why we're trying to reach our children, because, and it was wonderful to see all the children in church today. My brother-in-law's a priest in Williamsport, Pennsylvania, and he always says when he hears children cry, he doesn't get upset, he just knows that's the growth of our church. And that's what we need to reach, we need to let them know, so because in schools nowadays, they're getting everything else but,
So they're just getting it backwards. They get the other way around.
exactly.
Being told that
But there,
that's good.
unfortunately, I don't know, I'm old, so I don't, for me, the computer is not very good. So so I kind of emailed her once, but that was about it. My daughter put me on Facebook, I don't know why, because I really don't know how to do it very well, but and there's gobs of booklets and things out there.
Do you have associations with other groups that are?
Orthodox Christians for Life, there are some, not too many of those chapters, but that's the biggest ones. There was Martha and Mary House in California. Martha and Mary House was actually a home where they would take in women to stay while they were pregnant, but they had to not abort their baby, and they were giving them up for adoption. It was an Orthodox facility. Unfortunately, Mary Elizabeth has gotten very old, very sick, and they just closed, which was sad to hear. And she was a very, very colorful lady. She was not Orthodox originally. She proclaimed herself a hippie long in the 60s, and she had a number of abortions, and then she found the Orthodox faith and counsels many women. She has a whole program like that, but unfortunately that area closed. So, I'm sorry, you had another question?
I had a question, again, a practical one. How do you handle the administrative costs and things like that? Like printing materials and having the phone line and stuff like that?
That kind of all comes from our treasury, what we collect. It's very minimal, besides the rent. All of us are volunteers, everybody that works at the house are volunteers. Things that come to the house, like toilet paper and sometimes like that, we don't even charge for that, we just all kind of go in with that. So it's very minimal. The biggest cost is we have a newsletter that goes out 2 or 3 times a year. That, and then the phone lines, and then the rent of the house is about what we charge approximately. So really the donations we get in.
So are you a non-profit organization?
Definitely, yes, we are
A separate by
501.
itself, or?
a 501c3.
That's right.
Something like that.
So you're an independent nonprofit,
Right, yes.
not under a church?
No,
And,
well, we're part of the Orthodox Church. We used to be under, it used to be called SCOBA, but I don't know what.
Yeah,
Right.
So whatever it is called
I don't know
now.
what they call themselves.
We are endorsed by them, by the organization.
Nathan, you told me once about the number of abortions per live birth in Russia, and I was trying to tell Kathy, but I might have got the wrong number. Do you remember what the number is?
Yeah, I do, because it's seared itself in my mind. Unfortunately, the situation in Russia is that abortion is considered health care, and contraceptives are considered like toothpaste, not something to be, and because it's government sponsored and so on and so forth. And the figures are awful for Russia. Basically, the way that abortions are measured by demographers in the world is how many abortions per 100 live births. And for most of Europe, the range is from places like Finland and Sweden, where they've got 8 or 10, to places like, and I was very interested to hear you say the closed ethnic groups tend to have higher ones. Well, it's Spain and Italy that have States is in the 15 to 20 range, and Russian, the former Soviet Union, is 260 live births.
No, abortions.
Per 100 live births.
Right, so that's why there's a demographic problem. I mean,
Yeah.
it's,
Well, it's so much more, unfortunately, it's so much more than a demographic problem. It's so much, it's a tremendous, and it brings up a whole lot of big problems with and I think underlying the church is something that we are so uncomfortable confronting, dealing with, because as you said, we don't do those things, supposedly. And yet, there isn't an Orthodox Christian that I've ever met that isn't got some sin to go to confession with. I mean, it's just that it's very, very difficult in a lot of families. And to have this conversation, and that is where a lot of it needs to start, these conversations, and I'm not sure how you start those conversations. A lot of times there are, it's difficult because it's in the parish. I mean, I think we have the apostles, Panayoti and Patricia, their daughter got pregnant and they adopted their grandchild, and that was a really beautiful thing to see. But you have to be able to be accepting that that's a beautiful thing to see, and otherwise there's a tendency to just sort of say, well, I don't have to tell anybody about it. I can go to the thing and get it done. And so in that regard, the conversation that's difficult really is the one that has to be had. No, thank you for bringing this.
I thought, United States was that's 1 every 27 is important, so. Far exceeds.
that's a it's a tough way to look at it.
Yeah, I had a question. Is your organization involved in all pro-life political activism?
The only thing we do, we have gone to the March for Life in Washington. There's probably about 400 Orthodox Christians in Washington. We hold icons and we sing hymns, and that's it's kind of a rooster trip. My husband just drove this past year because we didn't have that many people going. We had a little van, and we drove there. We got out, we held our icons, got back in the van, and we drove all the way back to Cleveland. It was kind of a hard trip, but we just went to witness to the truth, and it's pretty neat to have all those Orthodox singing together. And then we have a little panahida at the very end by the Supreme Court. But that's, I think our message is more of love, and helping those moms and getting that word out and getting the word out to, what our stance is as far as sanctity.
Other questions? Thank you very much for coming, Kathy, Robert. We really appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.